Sometimes I think I'm pretty smart, and I know which way's up and which is down. And sometimes I think I'm a complete idiot, and I don't know anything. And as for the truth of the matter, I've spent some time using these files, testing files, and I never quite figured out really, what stands for what in terms of this, right? Because its instructions are in Japanese, and we have this. So I'm going to try and figure it out again. And I think maybe because I'm on camera, that's going to wake my brain up a bit. So this is a 65 file. So this will scratch anything, presumably up to around 66, which I guess at 67, you would then say it would stop scratching. So this one presumably then stops scratching around 62. Stop scratching. 60 to 62, right? Okay. So the 60 file means it could be as high as 62. Right. So I sent one of these knives to Glenn at Knife Sharpening Norway. I'm not entirely sure why. I just thought it was a cool knife. And well, because I thought it was a cool knife and a good regrind project, and it's made in America, and da 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 da. I had a load of reasoning, but yeah, I sent it to him, and he spent hours and hours with his, and he's at this point quite convinced that it's a piece of crap, apart from the handle. And so me, that I thought, well, this is a kind of a good knife, good enough to warrant me sending one all the way to Norway to a knife sharpener. Now I'm wondering again, like, do I actually have a clue? And so this one has been reground and refinished and then reground again brusquely, and then I took it out and did some chopping and I banged it in the dirt. Yeah, Glenn said he was hammering on his. By the way, I mean, this has been ground and ground again, and you can see how the heel is leaning over to the right there. But if we come over here, it's a lot worse. And I did grinding to compensate, but I think that in this case there were stresses in the steel such that you try and grind to get things to go straight, but it's the other side that's actually pushing the warp, and so then it just warps even more. So now I've been looking at this and thinking, maybe I will just take a carbide hammer to this and play around with straightening, which doesn't tend to go very well for me with the carbide hammer, but more or less. So the spine also kinks off to the left there, but not so much. So the majority of the issue, and you could thin down up here. But yeah, the whole thing from off the spine just goes bleh, right? And so I took this out and did some hard chopping, and it seemed to handle that pretty well. There is somewhere along here, there's a bit of, maybe down there, because it was very thin. I mean, the steel is very thin. And then down here at the heel, like I say, I banged it into the dirt, and so then I had to I hastily reground that, but the damage is still evident. And so what I was thinking was, because of the ergonomics of this knife and the idea that it's a kitchen knife, see how the handle has this downwards kick here? That tends to put your hand into the chopping board, right? So fine, you can have your hand off the edge of the board, but the original profile was much lower here nose, right? And so that would tend to aggravate that. And so by raising the tip there, I ground off a lot of steel. So I completely removed the factory edge steel up here. But down here, I did my best to keep it because I wanted to keep that heel as much as possible. So then when I banged this through the dirt, and there was probably a little pebble or something in there, but the amount of rolling and damage, it made me think, well, maybe the steel is actually still soft down here because there's still some factory edge steel, whereas I'm all the way through that up here, and up here, you know, it's pretty resilient. Wish I had a toothpick right now and some cardboard. But anyway, this is another Bear & Son knife. So Glenn got basically this knife with this handle configuration. And so you can see how thick these things come. These things from them. Same steel. And I've been scratching away at these with the file, trying to see whether I can deduce anything. Because for one thing, I thought, well, up here, you know, this is, we're into the good steel, as good as it gets. So let me test that and see if that's kind of significantly different from that. And I also tried seeing whether I could kind of scratch on the edge of this one, because this is the same steel, the same factory. Presumably they're using the same heat treatment protocol. Of course, just because, let's say this knife does have some good steel in it, that doesn't mean Glenn's does, or vice versa. But yeah, he's been grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding and doesn't seem to have hit good steel yet. So is there good steel? So I figured that it would be in everyone's best interests for me to look at this again. And I'll tell you what I've been... most of these scratches are just whatever scratches, but some of these up here are from this file testing. And I've realized, I think one problem with my files is that I've actually kind of used them enough that they've gotten a little glazed at the working point there. See what I mean? So especially if you use one of the softer files on a steel that's too hard, then you can kind of dull the file a bit. But anyway, I also discovered that seemingly, actually, you don't even need to inflict a scratch, because this is being 65 is definitely simply, if I just press, I can feel it biting. I can feel it biting. So the harder I push, the harder it bites, and it doesn't need to actually scratch. If I do the same thing with the 60, it's pretty much the same feeling. But it'll move, you know, it's a little more slidey. And the 55, I can't get it to dig in like that. Well, actually, now I'm doing it all one-handed. Yeah, not really. So, what it would appear then, because this one starts to, you know, this one definitely bites. This one starts to give out. That would suggest that we're probably somewhere in the region of 60 Rockwell. Which seems pretty good, you know, seems about right for the steel. Now, okay, if you wanted it for a chef knife or whatever, I guess you could go harder. But that's a decent hardness for this steel, and I think it should, you know, or maybe it's too hard for all I know. And also the hardness, of course, doesn't tell us how good is the actual heat treatment. It doesn't tell us that whatsoever. So what I'm going to do now is refinish this mess again. Try and get it to a good kind of thinness and evenness. Maybe I'll leave off the carbide hammer for now. I'll just try and get get a good kind of geometry and apex on this thing, and then do some tests. I'll make another video about that, I suppose. Thanks for watching.